Hello, and welcome to Gus McDowell's Strategy and Tactics, and thank you to our subscribers. I'm Nick McDowell. Today we're playing Sonorless Combat Systems Fleet Command, an operational level naval combat simulator from 1998. Please remember to like the video and subscribe for more great strategy and tactics content. And if you want to buy me a coffee, the links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. In this campaign, the Peacemakers, we look at a series of peacekeeping operations undertaken by America and its allies in the alternate 1990s world of Fleet Command. In this scenario, Liberating Liberia, a NATO task group tries to prevent the takeover of the capital city Monrovia while rescuing personnel from the embassies of several European countries. This operation is loosely based on Operation Sharp Edge, which was a non-combatant evacuation operation, or NEO, conducted by the US Navy and Marines in August 1990 during the Liberian Civil War. The 22nd and 26th Marine Expeditionary Units were supported by an amphibious ready group, Task Force 61, centred on the USS Saipan LHA-2. The Marines inserted by helicopter to secure the US Embassy. Ground elements were supported by Marine AH-1T Super Cobra helicopters and AV-8B Harrier II attack aircraft. Non-combatants were then flown off to Task Force 61 for processing. The operation lasted another 6 months, ending in January 1991 and evacuated around 2,500 people. In the last episode, the NATO task group established combat air patrols, planned the helicopter evacuation routes to and from Monrovia, destroyed 2 surface-to-air missile sites with Tomahawk missiles, and shot down 4 hostile rotary-wing aircraft, at the cost of 1 Harrier shot down. In this episode, the task group will conduct the non-combatant evacuation operation to rescue civilians from Monrovia in Liberia. In addition to the US Navy Boxer LHD-4, the NATO task group consists of the Royal Navy Glasgow DDG-88 guided missile destroyer, the French Jeanne d'Arc CVH-97 helicopter carrier, the American Ross DDG-71 guided missile destroyer, and the German Rommel DDG-187 guided missile destroyer. NATO destroyed 2 hostile surface-to-air missile sites and caused collateral damage to a barracks in rebel-held territory. The rebels have established a command centre nearby, and there is a hospital in the vicinity. But NATO is here to rescue civilians from a non-international armed conflict, protect assets and people with minimal use of force, and cause the least damage possible, not to fight a war and cause maximum destruction to the enemy. Boxer is having technical problems launching Harriers 53 and 54. The captain ordered another pair launched instead.
You are cleared to launch aircraft. Will do. Roger, out.
The captain also orders 2 Super Cobras to launch. These will provide support to the evacuation.
Affirmative. Affirmative. Roger, out. Roger. Can do. Roger, out.
In the first episode, NATO lost a Harrier to an air-to-air missile fired by a stolen rebel helicopter.
Can do.
The remaining Harriers resume their combat air patrol along the coast. They are running low on fuel. Jeanne d'Arc now gives the order to launch an SA-319 Alouette helicopter.
Permission to launch aircraft. Roger.
This is the first of the evacuation helicopters. An unknown rotary wing contact heads southwest towards Boxer. It could be hostile or neutral. We must make positive identification before taking aggressive action.
Updated tasking message received.
Let's review the incoming intelligence. Tactical update message received. Her Majesty's embassy staff have arrived at Monrovia Airport. The British joined staff from the Danish, German and French embassies. Boxer has launched 2 Harriers to supplement the combat air patrol. They activate aircraft radar.
Affirmative.
Another civilian aircraft has taken off from Monrovia Airport. The inbound rotary wing aircraft is positively identified as hostile.
Engaging track 1606. Wilco out. Missile away. Track 1606.
Glasgow launches a Sea Dart surface-to-air missile.
Will do.
The Sea Dart closes.
Splash track 1606.
And hits. The helicopter's wreckage splashes into the Atlantic. Boxer has launched another pair of Harriers. Let's speed up time. The second pair takes station south of Monrovia.
Affirmative.
And activate aircraft radar.
Roger, out.
Boxer has launched a pair of Super Cobras.
Roger, out. Will do.
They move to a holding pattern near the 5 nautical mile mark. The SA-319 Alouette has launched from Jeanne d'Arc. It moves to the assembly point 15 nautical miles from the airport.
Will do. Roger, out.
Jeanne d'Arc next orders the SA-365 Dauphin to launch.
Kick those aircraft off the deck. Out.
2 Lynx helicopters are at Alert 5,
Will do. Out.
and the second Alouette is brought to Alert 5. The flight deck is going to be very busy. Let's speed up time.
Can do. Roger, out. Can do. Roger, out.
The Harriers increase altitude to maintain vertical separation from the helicopters. This air operation will involve a lot of moving parts. The task group commander wants to avoid the possibility of a collision. The Alouette nears the assembly point.
Tactical update message received.
The SA-365 Dauphin launches from Jeanne d'Arc. It heads to the assembly point.
Roger, out. Can do. Roger, out.
The Alouette is ordered to the 10 nautical mile release point. The first Lynx is ordered to launch. The second Dauphin is brought to Alert 5.
Green deck, launch aircraft. Affirmative.
Let's review the incoming intelligence. Tactical update message received. US Embassy staff reached the airport. Situation is very precarious. Repeat, very precarious. Evacuations must be expedited. Maintain the schedule already sent to you. What schedule? Let's check the tasking. Here we go. Updated tasking message received. A skirmish between rebels and government troops has broken out near the airport. Rebels are outnumbered. Plan to begin evacuations at 1900 hours, first helo arrival. Have one helo arrive every 5 minutes thereafter. Determine launch times accordingly. Based on number of expected evacuees, 5 helicopter sorties will be required. Okay, we have 15 minutes to get the first evacuation helicopter to the airport, and 4 more every 5 minutes, plus additional aircraft for contingencies. Let's move everyone up.
Will do, out.
The Super Cobras increase speed. They will cover the airport while the evacuation aircraft move in.
Affirmative. Will do, roger, out.
The Harriers increase altitude for vertical separation.
Can do, out. Roger, out. Affirmative, out.
Let's speed up time.
Roger.
The Dolphin is ordered to the 10 nautical mile release point.
Will do, out.
Let's speed up time. The first Lynx takes off from Jeanne d'Arc. It moves to the assembly point.
Can do.
The Alouette is ordered to the 5 nautical mile release point.
Can do, out.
Glasgow moves inshore.
Will go. Roger.
Let's speed up time. 8 minutes to go. The Super Cobras have reached the 5 nautical mile mark.
Roger, out.
This is their forced separation point. They are ordered forward to separate positions on the coast.
Out.
The Alouette is released from the 5 nautical mile release point to the coastal release point.
Will do. Roger.
The Dolphin is released to the 5 nautical mile point.
Affirmative.
The first Lynx is released to the 10 nautical mile point. Jeanne d'Arc orders the second Alouette to take off.
Kick those aircraft off the deck. Roger.
Less than 5 minutes to go. The Cobras are at the coast.
Can do, roger, out.
They are ordered to take position either side of the airport for overwatch.
Roger. Roger. Will do, out.
2 minutes to go. Everyone is in position. The Alouette hovers over the coast, the airport in sight. "60 seconds. The Alouette is released forward.
Will do, out.
The Dolphin is released to the coastal release point.
Will do.
The first links to the 5 nautical mile release point.
Can do, roger, out.
The Super Cobras are either side of the airport, keeping a watchful eye out for targets. They also provide a running commentary for the task group commander. You can see the embassy buildings around the airport.
Tactical update message received.
Will do, out.
1900 hours and the Alouette commences rescue operations. The second Alouette has launched and moves to the 10 nautical mile release point.
Will do. Launch aircraft, affirmative.
Jeanne d'Arc orders the second Dolphin to take off.
Out.
The first Lynx moves to the 5 nautical mile release point.
Can do.
So far, so good.
Return to base, roger, out.
A civilian aircraft takes off.
Return to base, roger.
The first Alouette now returns to base, the first of the civilians on board.
Will do, out.
The Dolphin is released to the airport.
Can do, roger, out.
The Lynx is released to the coastal release point,
Will do, roger, out.
and the second Alouette to the 5 nautical mile release point.
Can do.
You can see why the infiltration and exfiltration routes are kept separate.
Tactical update message received.
Out.
1905 hours and the Dolphin commences rescue operations.
Return to home plate. Can do, roger, out.
Jeanne d'Arc orders the second Lynx to take off.
Launch aircraft immediately. Roger, out.
The second Dolphin takes off. It moves to the 10 nautical mile release point.
Can do, out.
Just in case, Jeanne d'Arc orders a third Lynx to launch.
You are cleared to launch aircraft. Will do, out.
Contingencies.
Affirmative. Out. Will do, roger, out.
The Dolphin returns to base with the second load of evacuees.
Return to base, roger. Will do.
The Lynx is released to the airport. The second Alouette to the coastal release point.
Will do, roger, out.
The second Dolphin to the 5 nautical mile release point.
Will do. Out. Will do, out.
Tactical update message received.
Can do, out.
1910 hours and the Lynx commences rescue operations. The third Lynx launches.
Can do.
It moves to the 10 nautical mile point. The first Alouette approaches Jeanne d'Arc.
Aircraft recovered.
The first load of evacuees are safe. 4 to go.
Affirmative. Returning to base. Will do.
The first Lynx returns to base.
Affirmative out.
The second Alouette is released to the airport.
Can do out. Return to base. Will do.
The first Dolphin circles around to land on Jeanne d'Arc.
Return to home plate. Can do.
Tactical update message received.
(19:15) and the second Alouette commences rescue operations at Monrovia Airport.
Aircraft safely on board.
The first Dolphin lands with the second load of evacuees.
Affirmative out.
The second Dolphin moves to the coastal release point.
Out.
The second Lynx moves to the 5 nautical mile point. Latest intelligence reports confirm 4 helicopters have so far reached the airport. The second Alouette returns to base.
Returning to home plate, out. Will do, out.
The second Dolphin is released to the airport.
Can do, out.
The second Lynx moves to the coastal release point as a contingency.
Tactical update message received.
The first Lynx lands on Jeanne d'Arc with the third load of evacuees.
Aircraft recovered.
1920 hours and the second Dolphin commences rescue operations at Monrovia Airport. This is the last flight out. But the Lynx remains in reserve. Intelligence confirms all 5 groups have been evacuated. The third Lynx takes off and moves to the 5 nautical mile release point,
Will do, out.
again as a contingency. The French embassy staff are the last out.
Proceeding to base. Will do, out.
The Dolphin returns to base.
Aircraft complete. Report for debrief.
The second Alouette lands safely with the 4th load of evacuees.
Returning to base. Can do.
The second Lynx in reserve is ordered to return to base. No surprises or last-minute calls for assistance, but the mission is not complete until all units are safely back on board.
Proceeding to base. Out.
The Super Cobras now retrograde back to the Boxer. They perform a final scan of the area to check for remaining evacuees. Nothing seen.
Returning to home plate. Roger. Proceed to base. Will do.
Glasgow orders her patrol helicopter to return.
to base. Will do. Roger. Out.
The 3rd Lynx in reserve is ordered back to base. The 2nd Dolphin lands on Jeanne d'Arc with the 5th and final load of evacuees. The Harriers move back to Boxer.
Proceeding to base. Roger.
The 2nd Reserve Lynx lands on Jeanne d'Arc. The 3rd Reserve Lynx lands on Jeanne d'Arc. The Super Cobras land on Boxer.
Taking station. Will do. Roger. Out. Returning to home plate. Roger.
The remaining Harriers return to base.
Affirmative. Roger. Out.
The task group moves back out to sea. The Harriers land on Boxer.
Will do. Roger. Out. Roger. Out. Roger.
Civilians safely evacuated and all aircraft recovered. Except one unlucky Harrier. Mission complete. Report for debrief. Mission accomplished. Mission effectiveness 41%. That may seem a surprisingly low result given the success of the mission. Let's review friendly forces. One AV-8B Harrier II was killed by a stolen rebel-operated AH-1 Whiskey Super Cobra with an AIM-9 Sidewinder air-to-air missile for -100 points. Otherwise, all friendly forces were unharmed. Let's review enemy forces. One SAM site was killed by Ross DDG-71 with a Tomahawk land attack missile for 300 points. And a second SAM site was also killed by Ross DDG-71 with a Tomahawk for 300 points. An enemy-held barracks was damaged by Ross DDG-71 with a Tomahawk for 39 points. This was collateral damage from the first Tomahawk strike. . An AH-1 Whiskey Super Cobra was killed by Glasgow DDG-88 with a Sea Dart surface-to-air missile for 100 points. A second AH-1 Whiskey Super Cobra killed by Glasgow DDG-88 with a Sea Dart surface-to-air missile for 100 points. A third AH-1 Whiskey Super Cobra killed by an AV-8B Harrier II with an AIM-9 Sidewinder air-to-air missile for 100 points. A fourth AH-1 Whiskey Super Cobra killed by AV-8B Harrier II with an AIM-9 Sidewinder air-to-air missile for 100 points. A fifth AH-1 Whiskey Super Cobra killed by Glasgow DDG-88 with a Sea Dart surface-to-air missile for 100 points. Assigned tasks. Sortie 1. Helicopter and passengers were recovered. Sortie 2. Helicopter and passengers returned safely. Sortie 3. Helicopter and passengers returned safely. Sortie 4. Helicopter and passengers were recovered. Sortie 5. Helicopter and passengers returned safely. Helo evacuation. 5 helicopter sorties were successful in rescuing people from the airport. Let's watch the replay for lessons learned. The game calculated our mission effectiveness percentage by reference to the points value of all possible enemy targets. But NATO was there to rescue civilians from a non-international armed conflict, protect assets and people with minimal use of force, and cause the least damage possible. Not to fight a war and cause maximum destruction to the enemy. Our mission parameters stated NATO is not intervening in the conflict other than to protect foreign nationals. Engage rebel forces only as required to ensure the safety of those being evacuated. Except for the loss of one Harrier, I was happy with this mission. But military simulations often struggle to simulate military operations other than war. This was a humanitarian mission, a non-combatant evacuation operation. Perhaps points should have been deducted for all units destroyed, including the hostile rotary wing aircraft and SAM sites. Let me know what you think in the comments below. The first stage of the battle was for air superiority. Ross destroyed the first SAM site with a Tomahawk land strike. Then a second SAM site. Hostile helicopters were shot down. Enemy attack helicopters shoot down the Harrier. They are then engaged and shot down by the remaining Harriers. I allowed the Harriers within range rather than engaging the helicopters with the surface-to-air missiles from the task group. It was a necessary risk because Jeanne d'Arc did not have any air defence. One Marine aviator paid with his life. His framed photograph goes up in Jeanne d'Arc's wardroom. Air superiority established, the helicopter evacuation commences. With Super Cobras in Overwatch, the helicopters form a conveyor belt from Jeanne d'Arc to Monrovia Airport and back again. Evacuation successful, helicopters perform a retrograde operation and the task force leaves Liberian waters. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and donate, and stay tuned for the next episode.